Welcome to TruPowur, home of the most powerful marketing tools, training, and technology on planet Earth. Get ready to earn, enjoy, and experience more than you ever dreamed was possible. If you're tired of just getting by and ready to really thrive, then buckle in and listen up. Here's your host, Matt Fox.
Hello and welcome to TruPowur Academy. This week is all about building a strong foundation for long-term success in your TruPowur business. We'll focus on the essential skills that separate those who try from those who truly succeed. Here's what we'll be covering today. The metrics is to measure what matters, so you always know where you stand. Script mastery, learning to deliver with confidence and authenticity, role playing, both sales calls and handling objections, so you're prepared for real conversations. Knowing your non-negotiables, understanding what drives your business, and finally, asking for help, because success is never a solo journey. By the end of this training, you'll not only understand what and why, but you'll also be equipped with practical steps to take action and immediately. So let's get started and join Allison Fox in the training.
In today's second session of Back to Basics, we'll talk about basics that you must master in order to get the results that you need. It's important to revisit these topics as often as possible. They are slightly repetitious, but they are incredibly important. So without further ado, let me take you to the presentation for today. During these 8 weeks of Back to Basics, we'll revisit certain topics multiple times. In today's session, we'll talk about basics you must master. First, we'll discuss metrics, what you can measure that matters. We'll talk about mastering your script and key ways to try to do that efficiently. We'll talk about role playing and how to appropriately do a role play for a sales call. We'll also talk about handling objections. And then we'll also understand kind of your non-negotiables. What are the things that are your basics that help you succeed in this business? On the topic of metrics, it's important to begin somewhere with metrics. You always want to measure what matters and do the things on a consistent basis in order to learn that you are trending towards success. And in the beginning, you'll have one set of metrics that you're going to look at. And as you get used to measuring those metrics, there will be different ways that you can refine it. In the beginning, we're going to focus strictly on dials, utility bills, audits, proposals, new commercial contracts, and then what percent of those weekly goals that you're actually achieving. As you get more experienced and as you get more customers and more time in the dialer, we'll continue to track dials, but we'll also take a look at talk time. How long are you actually on the phone for? Are you measuring how long you're on the phone for? Some people use an hourglass. I have an hourglass on my desk. Other folks use timers that can be put on your desktop. Whatever it is, at some point, you're going to want to optimally choose the amount of time to actually be on the phone. We'll also talk about dials needed in order to originate a new contract. As you get closer to analyzing your conversion metrics, when we think about measuring metrics that are closest to the dollar, you can't get closer to the commission than measuring contract success rate. So as you get more experience, that's going to be an important conversion rate to track. We'll also take a look at dials to audits. How many folks are you talking to and how many businesses are you helping to evaluate whether or not they've overpaid for their utilities in the past? It may be important to measure audits before contracts because in some ways, the customer journey, as we understand it, TruPowur, really begins with the audit. It's where we can demonstrate the value we can bring to the customer without any risk or without any out-of-pocket expenses. So at some point, you really do need to originate as many audits as possible. So consider that when you're looking at your conversion rates. It also is important to measure overall your goals for the month. That's going to be something that may graduate to a monthly basis once you've achieved the weekly goals. Another component that you need to master is scripts and getting comfortable with learning scripts, devising scripts, tying scripts to campaigns. There's all different ways that you can track your efficiency specifically with scripts, but very first we need to master them. I downloaded a interesting perspective on what actors do in order to learn their lines. And here are some of the things that you may try if you're really struggling with learning your script. Read your lines aloud. I actually, this past Sunday, I read the script I'm going to be using this week 10 times in front of a mirror. If you can do it more frequently than that, as easy as it is for you to repeat, it's going to be that much better when you're on the phone. Another technique that you can try is to print out the script and actually cover portions of it to test yourself on how much of the information that you retained. The script shouldn't be that long. They should maybe be 2 or 3 sentences, maybe at the most 10 sentences. But if you're going to go for a longer, more sophisticated sale, print out the script and try to test your knowledge by just covering it with your hand. You also can write it out by hand. I actually have a notebook. I have written out scripts previously. For whatever reason, my hand-to-eye movement somehow makes it easier for me to recall things. Once you've mastered the script, you can also get up and walk around as you're delivering it. Some of the folks I've spoken to recently have also indicated that they do better when they're walking. I know that when I had a wireless headset, I was frequently walking while selling and closing. Right now, I'm on a USB corded headset, but if I was on my Plantronics Wireless Voyager, I would probably be adding movement to try to get the emphasis that I need. And then you can also record these calls within the CRM dialer and go back and listen to it. So if you have the ability to make some calls, record them, and then go back and listen to your pitch, you'll find out where you're hitching on the pitch when you review the recordings. And if you're really stuck, if you have a novel approach and you're just not able to memorize the lines, keep in mind that at some point there is a diminishing return, and sometimes just sleeping on it and testing yourself first thing in the morning, you'll discover that you've actually learned quite a bit more than what you thought. And try not to overthink this. Trust yourself, let go of the fear that you may be having. That is a form of call reluctance, is trying to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. So trust yourself and get on the business of getting on the phone. In the customer success organization, we think it's important to provide role-playing assistance. If you've mastered the script or after you've mastered the script, happy to actually do role play with you. And during a scheduled call, the way that it would look like is that you would play the role of the seller, I would be the buyer, and we would actually try to do it in different types of styles. We'll start off as an easy, willing customer, and then we'll offer more objections and things that you'll encounter when you're in the field. We want to try to strive for each role-playing session to have 3 full sales calls, and also take notes immediately after the call on what went well and where you're struggling. Where you're struggling is likely where you need to focus on getting around those obstacles when you're live. And if it's at all possible, before you get on the phones for a market call campaign, do a dress rehearsal and have the dialer open, have the scripts available, have your workstation ready to get on the phones, and see how you feel when you're doing it. I did this past Sunday because I just hadn't been on a dedicated phones sprint like that in a while, and I just wanted to see how I would feel doing it. And I was really grateful when I got on the phone on Monday morning that I had done the role playing with myself on Sunday. We're also going to be tackling objections in a role play environment. There are going to be some standard objections, which are kind of outlined on how to handle in TruPowur Academy, the quick launch menu. There even are objection handling scripts within the dialer. But you do need to kind of categorize the objection as you listen to it on what kind of objection it is that you're receiving. Before you pounce and try to close quickly, try to do some qualifying questions and get to the heart of the matter on why they're giving up a block. One of the ways that is effective at handling objections is to agree with them. So if at all possible, in order to foster a collaboration tone, you don't want to necessarily pounce on the objection and then in some ways invalidate the objection, because that's not going to help you achieve your goal, which is helping the customer save money and establishing a new long-term relationship. So try to come up with some alternatives like, I understand that you're not interested. Do you think that it would make sense for you to actually go through the presentation and see if any of it is applicable to you before you make a decision that you're not interested? A lot of people that are initially presented with this feel like it's not a right fit, but ultimately when they heard about what we were able to offer, they found that it was something they wanted to pursue. That's an alternative to saying, I'm not interested. You give them some basis for why it makes sense to continue on with a call with you. One of the other things that you can understand about objections is that they're really the most valuable part of the call. When people provide objections, that's actually a form of buying signals. They're kind of laying out to you, what do I need in my mind in order to justify this as a potential transaction? And so the really valuable information that we want to put on our listening hat and try to discover, are they concerned that they'll be obligating themselves to new financial commitments? Are they concerned that they're being scammed? Are they concerned that they're going to disrupt their existing relationship? Are they concerned that they just don't know that this is a topic that they need to investigate and they just need some more information? Or are they simply just bored or not interested in having a conversation at that particular moment? And it may make sense to back off and re-engage when you can catch them at another time. All of these things should be going on in your head as you're actively listening to the objection, because we really have an opportunity to build a relationship with them and build trust when we don't just categorically dismiss them, and we listen to what they're saying and try to strengthen our willingness to help them. So understand their plight as a business owner, understand what they're trying to do with, optimizing expenses, and have a genuine desire to craft a win-win solution for them. And when you're role-playing this, it's important to not be oppositional in the beginning. As you're getting more effective at identifying the type of objection, you should run through a role-playing scenario handling objections, as I said, a minimum of 3 times. And you can alter the pitch and the tone, but the very primary purpose of doing role-playing for objection handling is to get experience on handling the basic responses to simple objections so that you can relax and actually listen instead of thinking about what it is that you want to apply to that objection. So there is some amount of this that's going to be practice. So when you engage in role-playing and handling objections, we really do want to get to as many objections and as many effective tackling of those objections rather than just, for example, putting up objections for no other reason than being oppositional. We get enough opposition when we're outbound. And as you think about these basics that you must master, the important thing to realize is that, yes, you are in business for yourself. Yes, you are the CEO of your particular brand of TruPowur and your practice. However, it is also incumbent on you to ask for help. You are around some incredibly experienced folks that are willing and capable of helping you, but you must ask for help. And the basis of asking for help will be understanding and mastering your strengths, like knowing what it is that you do best, and also being willing to work on your weaknesses. Some of the calls that I've had over the last several days, I've been astounded by the level of transparency and really self-knowledge about some of the reps who have said, you know what, I get excited to be on the phone. I get excited and energized by people. I consider myself a social butterfly. Or, you know what, I'm not great at planning. I really am struggling with this. What are some of the things that we can do to try to understand how to do planning and how to do goal setting? But at the first and foremost, you've got to ask for help. If you're sitting by yourself trying to master these things in the dark, in silence, without help, you may run into unintended consequences that will reduce your results. So learn how to cultivate a mind for asking for help. It's not necessarily the easiest thing. I struggle for asking for help. I try to be as independent as possible. I try not to bother people. However, in the end, ultimately, I'm only hurting myself by not asking for help. And I would encourage you to also adopt a mindset, a beginner's mindset, where you are constantly sharpening the axe. One of the reasons why I picked the title Back to Basics for this 8-week series is that it doesn't matter whether you have 35 years of experience or 3 months of experience. There are criteria as a salesperson that are basics that you must get back to on a very consistent basis. And whenever you're struggling with your pipeline, with your book of business, I guarantee you that if you go back and you think about back to the basics, how many dials am I making? What are my conversion rates? What is my scripts mastery? What does my call campaign conversion rate look like? These are the things that are going to get you back to a healthy, vibrant, billable pipeline. So master your metrics, ask for accountability. I'm available after you set your goals to have, very quick touch points. I'm available to, also ask you to be accountable to yourself and give you some ideas of how I bake in accountability within my week and within my schedule. And every single day, in every single way, whatever I do, I have a profound commitment to the fact that if it's something that needs to be done, it's worth being done properly and to the best of my ability. And I try to do it a little bit better every single day. And that 1% improvement rate every day over time really does make the difference between next level selling and somebody who's just showing up and getting average results. And one of the ways you can do that is asking for help. As you make these calls, listen to the calls yourself and then enlist one of us to listen to your calls. We can give you feedback on your tone, your pace, your listening skills. We can help you craft a new response or a better script. But at the end of the day, it is ultimately up to you to really take your business to the next level and to push yourself to aim higher each and every day. And although some of these topics may be repetitious over the next 8 weeks, these are the things that you should be revisiting in your mind in getting better every single day. So I invite you to really consider all the ways that you can move your business to the next level. Are you measuring the metrics? Are you mastering the scripts? Are you taking advantage of one-on-one time for role playing for either simply simulated calls or more difficult calls for really big deals? For example, one of the agents mentioned to me that he's really wanting to target a hospital and healthcare vertical over the next 3 months. Schedule a time to do a role play. I know what a hospital administrator, what their needs are and what's on top of their mind. So don't be afraid to ask for the impossible. Perhaps somebody that is accessible has the resources that you need. And don't skip handling objections. In some ways, it is incumbent upon the salesperson to help buyers overcome objections. Everyone provides natural objections because they don't necessarily want to challenge the status quo. And so if you don't practice these objections and handling them properly, and you don't commit to active listening, you're never going to be necessarily a next level salesperson. And you're actually doing a disservice to customers because in many ways, they're relying on your earnestness and your commitment to providing value to them to actually help them overcome these objections. And if it is a legitimate objection, obviously we don't want to sell people that aren't going to benefit from our services. But if you know in your heart that they can benefit, then you owe it to yourself to commit the time to role playing on handling objections. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, all we have is time. It's our most valuable asset. It's something that once it's gone, we can never recover. And if you don't do these basic drills to get successful in the basics, you're never going to be able to accelerate and you're never going to go to the next level. So own each and every way that you invest time in your business and do things that can be measured and that matter. And at the end of the day, help is available to you. If you want to succeed, we're here to go with you on that journey, or you can, move along with us side by side. But it isn't necessarily our responsibility to know exactly where you're struggling unless you put in the time to do the basics so we have something to analyze. So as you get ready to approach the next several business days and you take a look at next week during your planning sessions on Sunday, ask yourself, how well am I trending towards mastering these basics? How well am I doing in my planning process, and am I measuring the results that keep me on track so that I can end out the year effectively? There's lots of ways to reach me. Certainly, the quick launch menu is one place you can go to navigate to training, and there's a button to request one-on-one time with your customer success manager. You're also welcome to email me at any time, success@trupower.net. And I am outbound most of the time. When I'm not on the phone training you guys, I'm actually outbound and selling. So by all means, send me an email. Let me know when you need a reply. I am going to be committing to a 2-day turnaround time on emails and requests. But in the interim, please help me help you by leveraging any of the ways to get a hold of us so that we can take you to the next level with your business. I appreciate you being on the call today. I'm excited that you're on this journey over the next 8 weeks on mastering your basics. And I welcome any feedback and any requests for help. Make it a great day.
Awesome. And thank you, Allison. We've now completed week 2 of the basics you must master. Remember, success does not come from doing one big thing once. It comes from consistently mastering the small things every day. Stay focused on your metrics, practice your scripts, role play often, and don't be afraid to ask for help. These are the habits that will set you apart and build the foundation for a long-term success with your TruPowur business. Thank you for your time and commitment today. I look forward to seeing you put this information into action and keep aiming higher, and you'll see in the next sessions. Until next time, have fun storming the castle. Bye now.